Hello, well in this video I'm going to talk about multiplying and dividing fractions. One first thing to be aware of is any number can be turned into a fraction quite easily. So if we've got the number 2, how do we turn that into a fraction? Abracadabra, line 1. And now 2 is the numerator of the fraction, 1 is the denominator. Because this line in the middle of the fraction actually means divide as well, you see. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. So let's take another one. What about 7? How do we turn that just into a fraction? Line 1, abracadabra. What about 273,000? Oh my gosh, 472. How do we turn it into a fraction? Line 1. It's a fraction. Great. So that's how to turn any number you want into a fraction, put it over 1. Now, usually in fraction calculations, if you find yourself with a mixed number, and I've done another video about mixed numbers and improper fractions, it's usually a good idea to turn that into an improper fraction in order to do the calculation. In this case, 9/5. There we go. So mixed numbers, turn them into improper fractions. And if you find yourself just with an ordinary number, you can turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. Great. So multiplying fractions is actually quite simple. There we are. 3/4 times a half. Well, the top you do 3 times 1 is 3. The bottom you do 4 times 2 is 8. Done. You multiply the numerators together. You multiply the denominators together. Perfect. So we could have, for example, let's think of another one, shall we? 2/3 times 3/4. Well, we multiply the numerators together. 2 times 3 is 6. We multiply the denominators together. 3 times 4 is 12. When you get an answer like this, you'll notice they're both in a times table, in the 6 times table. So we can simplify that answer by dividing the top and the bottom by 6. And that's all in another video. I've done another video on equivalent fractions and simplifying fractions, which explains this. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So the answer is a half. So what if we have, say, a mixed number as we were discussing before? We could have 1 4/5 times 5/10. Well, as we said before, it's always good to turn mixed numbers, almost always good to turn mixed numbers into improper fractions first before you do the calculation. And 1 4/5, as I've explained in another video, is 9/5 times 5/10. We multiply the numerators together. 9 times 5 is 45. We multiply the denominators together. 5 times 10 is 50. Now, these are both in the 5 times table. So we can divide the top and the bottom by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 50 divided by 5 is 10. The answer is 9/10. Lovely, lovely, lovely. You might also get a fraction that's 7/8 times 3. And when we first see these, sometimes it's kind of like, what on earth do we want us to do? That's not a fraction. How do we apply multiplying fractions? But of course, as I said at the top of this video, we can turn any number into a fraction by abracadabra, 3/1. Lovely, it's a fraction now. We can do the sum. 7 times 3 is 21. 8 times 1 is 8. This can be simplified to 2 and 5/8, as explained in my mixed number and improper fraction video. Right, onwards to dividing. And dividing isn't too bad either, dividing fractions. You have to remember KFC. I love KFC. I love fried chicken. But this actually has nothing to do really with KFC, unfortunately. The K stands for keep. The F stands for flip. And the C stands for change. So if we have a dividing problem, here's 1/5 divided by 2/3. What this means is the keep the K means we keep the first fraction in the sum, the 1/5, as it is. We keep that as it is. The flip means we flip the second fraction. It does a little headstand. I could do headstands when I was a kid. I can't do that anymore. So when that does a headstand, it's 3 goes up to the top and the 2 goes down to the bottom. You see it's standing on its head. The denominator has become the numerator. The numerator has become the denominator. Change means we change the divide to a multiply. And now it's just a multiply problem. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. 3/10. Do you see? So it's keep, flip, change is a good way of doing it. There are other ways of thinking about it, but that's probably the best way. So again, you might find yourself with mixed numbers. It's always possible. So if, for example, we've got this one here, 2 3/4 times 4/5, well, what we have to do is turn the mixed number into an improper fraction. I'll do that first, actually. And that is 2 3/4 is 11 quarters divided by 4/5. Now we apply the keep, flip, change. We keep the 11 quarters, the first one, the same. The second one we flip, and that becomes 5 quarters. And then we change the division sign to a multiplication sign. And we end up with 11 times 5 is 55. 4 times 4 is 16. I'm going to move this along a bit because we want a bit more space, don't we? So obviously that, we can't really simplify that. But as a mixed number, that works out as 3 7/16. You can work that out and check for me. So what you might also find is you get sums where you've got 1/5 divided by 4. Not too bad, because we know how we can turn the 4 into a fraction, don't we? 4 over 1, abracadabra. Then keep the first one, 1/5. Change the second one, 1/4. Sorry, flip the second one. The second one flips, and then the divide changes to a multiply. And then we have 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 4 is 20. Keep, flip, change. So I do hope that's been useful explanation of multiplying and dividing fractions. Have a lovely, beautiful, wonderful, fabulous day. Bye-bye.